Good evening. It's a Thursday, and it's the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast here for you and all of your wrestling needs. My name is Jamal. To my left here is Marcellus. How you doing, sir?
Good, good. How you feeling, man? You had a busy evening yesterday, or?
I am dead tired. It has been a day and a half because Dynamite, did a thing. I was there in the building, so we're going to recap that. Uh, Going to Dynamite, led me to a very interesting question. We're going to talk about that. Of course, because we're talking about AEW, we're going to talk a little bit about Collision because that is upon us. That's coming Saturday after Rampage, which is on Friday. And we got a little bit of rumor report, which leads to a couple of interesting questions. The rumor is Carlito maybe coming back to WWE. How do we feel about that? And who else would we want to see make a run? Maybe make one last run in the mainstream. So we're going to cover all of those things tonight for you on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, starting now. And again, thank you for joining us here on a Thursday. It's the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast live for you. And yes, last night, Dynamite made this the way into town. It was yesterday, episode number 193, I think Tony Khan said, emanating from Capital One Arena downtown here in Washington, D.C. First time they've been in that building since Dynamite number 1.
Yep.
They've come back a couple times, but they've used a smaller arena. And good raucous crowd, if that's a thing for you. The show was what it was, but a lot of heavy implications for Forbidden Door. Obviously, a lot of implications for Rampage, and which was taped last night, and Collision, which is on Saturday. But the big thing, and this is my big gripe, if you'll indulge me, is the show ended. What time do you think the show ended last night, Marcellus?
So I'm gonna just take TV time, right? So let's
the
say
event. The event. What time
the
do you think the event ended?
I'll say 10:30. 10:30.
Not even close.
What time did it end?
11:50.
11:50. So wait. So the show started at 8. Was there anything pre-show?
No.
For 8. So it started at 8.
Again, the event.
Gotcha. Right.
So the event, doors open at 6:00.
Okay.
And if you've never been to a major wrestling show, you want to get there early to get your merch.
Absolutely.
You want to get there early to see the venue if you've never been it before. You want to get there early to get your food.
Yep.
So merch, food, bathroom before you find your seat. Absolutely. If you want to walk away from something, get that merch early. So people got there at 6:00. Now, fortunately, I don't live terribly far from the arena. Quick ride on the train down. Lovely day yesterday compared to
very much so.
The past couple of weeks of hell from the wildfires and the smoke and stuff like that. But cool. 6:00. I get there at about 6:15-ish. No problem. Whiz right in. Whiz right in as fast as security will allow us, because if you've ever been to Capital One, it's tougher than the airport.
So the secret about Capital One, if you have a Capital One card, use that entrance if you go to Capital One. That's the best entrance to use.
Again, pay to win. That's really what it comes down to. The secret to success in America is pay to win. Yes. But I digress. So we get down there. I get down there to the venue, pick up my ticket, have a decent seat. Cool. The merch is kind of lacking. Of the T-shirts that they have the generic AEW hoodie, which is like $80.
Jeez.
Okay, fine. Inflation. But of the 5 T-shirts they have, 4 of them are of the guys that they're pushing. Yep. There's an FTR shirt. There's the Acclaimed shirt with the scissors. There's an Adam Cole shirt, and then there's a Bucks shirt. Okay, Cool. The other shirt is just a generic Dynamite I was there shirt. Well, that's not worth $40 to me, so that saved me a half an hour in line because that line was monstrous.
I bet it was.
But that's why you get there early. So it's now 7:00. Lexi Nair, who is a Ring of Honor for Ring of Honor ring announcer, she opens the show. Cool. That's great. Introduces herself, introduces the crowd, and this is where I really missed Dark and Elevation, because the matches were what they were, but they were something. Instead, because the show doesn't go live until 8:00,
correct,
for 30 straight minutes, we got video package, promo packages, and commercials for the video game. Right.
So was the crowd even still hype at this point, or were they just?
Well, the crowd was still filing in.
Okay, so, got it.
The merch lines were ridiculous. The bathroom lines were ridiculous. The concession lines were ridiculous because a lot of the concessionaires wasn't open. They didn't open the 400 level at all, so nobody was going there.
So things that was taped off.
So that was completely taped off.
Was it only get full?
Yeah, so out of the 3 levels of the public access of the arena, because they do have a suite level, only the first 2 levels were available. The main concourse where you come in and the secondary club level in the 200 section, you could not go above that. There were no seats for you.
Got it.
So cool. A smaller setup for the venue. I still like the new set in person. It looks good. But now it's 7:30-ish. Justin Roberts comes out and we have the one dark match. And it was actually pretty good. And I don't have a problem saying this because y'all won't see it anyway. It won't be anywhere. It was just there. And honestly, it could have been on TV. It was Maki Ito and Abaddon and Riho as to the team face versus hometown heroine Nyla Rose with her tag team partners Marina Shafir and Emi Sakura. Good 10-minute long 6-woman tag match. Okay. A lot of love for Nyla. Kind of makes you wonder why they don't push her more. A lot of love for Maki Ito. Cool. Good match all the way around. That's actually one of the matches that I wish y'all saw on TV. Now it's 8:00. The show goes. Tony Khan comes out, tweaked out of his mind, super excited, getting the crowd hype. Dynamite happens. It's now 10:00. Rampage happens after that. It's now 11:15-ish. And because of the way Dynamite ended, they had like a little post-match thing, and Rampage actually didn't get started till about 10:15. So which means that it taped until about 11:25-ish. And then they took about 10 minutes to change the masking one more time for one Ring of Honor match.
Just one?
Just one.
Wow. So let me ask this. Okay, even though the fans know for the whole event, as you just said, you're going to have Rampage, you're going to have ROH. Did any fans start to leave at this point? Because, Metro still has this thing where if
Metro closes at midnight.
Right. If you got to get home, you got to leave. So how was the crowd at that time? Did the crowd kind of like leave a little bit? Or was a lot of people staying?
I would say that of the available tickets, because again, not a full house. I don't expect 20,000 people in the building. If they seated 8,000, maybe 6,500 showed up for Dynamite.
Got it.
If out of that 6,500, I would say that number probably decreased to about 4,000 for Rampage.
Okay.
Because it's 10:00 on a Wednesday.
It is.
And not everybody's not out of school. And, not everybody, it's not an off day for everybody, too. It's 10:00. Gotta go.
DC public schools still go to next week, I think. Yeah.
Oh, God. Poor kids.
Yeah.
So that is a thing. And then they do Rampage, and then maybe about out of that 4,500-ish, maybe 2,500 leave. So it's about 1,500 people left. It's bare bones in there for the one Ring of Honor match. And for me, it's a war of attrition because I've been there since 6:30.
Yep.
It's going on midnight, and it's the one Ring of Honor match. And the one match was the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Ray with Commander and Vikingo versus the Butcher, the Blade, Kip, and someone Serpentico,
Okay.
who I absolutely love.
So not a bad card on that match.
Not a bad match at all. A lot of fun. Everybody got their spots in.
Yep.
That would have been a great opening match at 7 o'clock.
Yes. Yes.
And that was but at 11:45, it's kind of like that was a 6:30 backsplash.
Yep.
That was cool. It's 11:46, and it's kind of like, not for me personally, because obviously I'm not dumb enough to walk home. Is it stay to watch the wrestling or walk home because Metro is going to close? But so I was good personally. But the long and short of it is that if you're going to watch that show on Ring of Honor when it does air, because they did the whole thing, they put up the Ring of Honor barricades, they changed the ribbons on the around the arena, and it's 11 o'clock. It doesn't look good for the product because there were, a couple thousand at best there, as the show was damn near didn't start till near 11:30.
Yep.
And went about 15 minutes, and it was fine, but it was like, why this match at that time?
Yep.
It just went on way too long. So now that brings me to Collision, and we're going to talk about that, in the back half of the show, because we got to make you wait for it, just like Connor's making us wait for it. But the real question is that I hope that there's a little bit more continuity in the taping schedule. Absolutely. Now that Collision is a thing. I don't know if that show is going to be 2 hours. I think it is. I think that's what like the TV guides are saying for your cable systems. If it is 2 hours, then tack on Ring of Honor an hour before. And that way, Dynamite event can start at 7 and be over at 10.
Yep.
I would feel a lot better about the show if it ended at 11, and then 11-ish, because that's a Raw.
Yeah. Legit 3 hours.
That's a 3-hour show. And then of course you have the on Saturday nights you have Collision live, and then maybe Ring of Honor before that.
Yeah.
It's again, we'll talk about Collision a little bit more after the break, but the long and short of it is that I did not expect to be there to midnight.
Yep.
And I think that's that is a very interesting thing. So hopefully they get their ducks in a row. So let's move on real quick, because I do want to bring up our first topic, and that is Sting. Now, 2 Chainz was there with me at the show last night, and we were talking about it at length, because of the fact that Sting had a match. And I got to give him credit, because Sting is 700 years old, and he still is doing it.
Yep.
Now, Sting is wrestling like a 60-year-old man.
Yeah.
Because he is. Goldberg's wrestling like a 40-year-old man, because he tries to.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference. So let me ask you this then. We know that Sting, he already said that he wasn't going to be around for a long time. He was going to be around for a good time.
Yep.
When that day comes, and it will be sooner than later, who should be the one to retire Sting? And more importantly, where? Should it be an AEW event? Should it be a WWE event? Or should it be his own show outside of that scope, kind of like Ric Flair's last match?
That's a good question. In my personal opinion, I think it should be his own show, similar to what Ric Flair did as his own last match. But you know what? Honestly, I would really give it to Darby Allin. I would really give it to him. And that's more of the primacy, recency answer that I could give. But when you think about somebody that is a true passing of the torch, or a tutelage that he kind of gave to give him his own character, or where he is right now in AEW, I think this could be a good way to transcend Darby Allin to be like a top tier star. And if you have that moment where it's like, I retired Sting, that goes a long way to you in your career, whether you're in AEW, making the WWE, whatever promotion that you're in. And I think just that work that he could probably do, understanding who Sting is now at this age, how he can be the safe one to wrestle him at this age, similar to what Ric Flair had with his son-in-law during that time, to work with him. I think Darby Allin will be the good one. I don't want to see a Sting versus like another old timer, like a Ric Flair type, that's like an old classic back in the day, like this will never happen again, like a Sting versus Goldberg or whatever the case. I think it needs to be somebody young. I think it's somebody needs to be passing the torch. But I would do it at Sting's own event, because Sting has literally went through every single major promotion that is in wrestling. Every single one, Impact included. So I think it should just be a way where he has his own dedication, and maybe everything it could be tribute matches. Maybe somebody dresses as him in the 80s, somebody dresses as him when he was in the 90s, or maybe his little NWO phase. Give some tribute matches to him and let it be a showcase where it's like a passing of the torch. I think it'll be like a great celebratory retirement for him, and I think he deserves that.
So that actually is a perspective that I thought about, but now that I hear it, I like it more than what I was going to say. And what I was going to say was Saudi Arabia. It's not that Sting has any connection to the country or anything like that.
Right.
Because if you had to pick a venue, where you could pick anywhere because it's Sting. But I really think that if you want to, the Saudi shows have been on the up.
Yep.
They've been, consistent and solid, and
Especially
they've actually had more meaning.
Yep.
But I also think that because of the time frame relevant to America, it's something that's digestible on a Saturday afternoon. It's something that you can that it doesn't have to be canon. That's not anything that you have to build up to on Raw and SmackDown.
Yep.
Sting would, of course, get his final lap, in WWE, because obviously if it's happening in Saudi Arabia, they will be their event. And I also think because of the legacy with WCW, with WWE, WWF, they would be able to be best positioned to put the promo package that Sting deserves.
Yes.
Instead of pussyfooting around the video content.
Yep.
But I do really like the idea of an independent show, because even if you don't have the footage, go watch the DVD.
Exactly.
There's a ton of them out there.
Yes.
Get Peacock or Disney Plus next year or whatever, or wherever they land. But the content's there for you to do your own research.
Absolutely.
But I also think that a show, much to what you said, is more to the point of getting the younger generation involved and passing that torch.
Yep.
I may not remember Ric Flair's last match, the show, but I might remember Nick Wayne being on there. I might remember Island Angels being on there, Takeshita being on there, and so on, Gresham being on there. And that's a spot, that's a coveted spot for an up and coming guy or a guy looking to break through that just really are come few and far in between. So, and it's because Sting right now, or within the next 2 or 3 years, barring some injury, God forbid, is in a better position of Ric Flair to handle himself in a 20-minute long match. Even though that's not really what he's doing in AEW. Sting's playing the long game. He's working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
You can see that when his matches. He's not out there with a shirt off, oiled up, trying to headbutt a locker room.
No.
Giving himself a concussion on the way out. No, he's wrestling like a 60-year-old man. He's wearing his merch because A, we know what that looks like, and also he's trying to sell merch.
Absolutely.
So I really, respect the pivot and the necessarily need to pivot to move into the latter years of his career instead of going, nah, I'm just 30 with gray hair. Like, no, you old. Embrace it. With that said, though, I don't think Darby's the guy to give him to send him off, and the reason why, I think it should be a tag match. Because I don't think Sting wants to go 25 minutes by himself. That's number one. And Darby can take that workloads in the same way that Andrade did.
Yep.
And I also think that I don't think it should be Darby anyway, because Darby himself has said many times that he's not here for a long time. He wants to do what he wants to do, and when it's time for him to go, he will leave.
Yep.
And that he's not going to. I mean, well, not, but I don't foresee him being, based on what he says, being a 30, 40-year career wrestler, taking bumps 75 years old.
Yep.
I think that once he's done, he's done. And then you're going to have to respect that. So then who would I have retire Sting? And Jeff, and goddamn it, Jay Lethal can't do them all.
He can't. He can't. As good as he is.
You can't do it all. But I think I think Sting versus Jarrett would be very interesting because of who they both are. And the fact that Jarrett's doing the best work maybe in the last 10 years of his career. I think that might be the match that I would probably want to see most. I think there's some other guys. There's nobody of his era that's doing it currently.
The only person you can think of is Taker, maybe, but I think Taker, it should have happened 5 years ago if it was
Yeah,
going to
a
be
lot
Taker.
of things with the Undertaker should have happened 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But and a lot of the other things too. So like nobody of his actual era, of his heyday.
Yep.
Late WWF, WCW, before the year 2000, that I can think of would be worthy of a retirement match. There's some matches that I want to see because Two Court Scorpio is still out there doing it.
Yep.
I would love to see one more match from a bunch of different people, but would they pair with Sting? Like Lance Storm doesn't have the history with Sting, though that would be a hell of a match. So who would I get? I think it would be a tag match. It would be Sting and Darby, whatever it is, however it finishes, it finishes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's Sting and Darby versus I would hate to say Jarrett and Lethal, but that could be a thing because they are a tag team. MCMG would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing over somebody from Japan would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of guys in Japan that are doing what Sting is doing now.
Yep.
And could Liger come out for one more match?
Depends on the timing.
It depends on the timing. It depends on the timing and the who's and the where's and the whys. So, yeah.
Would you say nobody in WWE though? I would say nobody from WWE should be able to do it.
I don't think there's anybody in WWE that should do it.
What about Edge?
But so that's the thing. Like, I can think of 20 people that I would rather see in a retirement match for Sting than anyone able to do it in WWE. Mm-hmm. And that's really it. It's not that I wouldn't want to see Sting versus The Undertaker or Sting versus Triple H or Sting versus, but who would do it? And that's kind of the thing. I don't see Sting versus Jericho would actually be very interesting.
That could be interesting. That would be very interesting.
That would be very interesting. But that's kind of the thing where it's just like I'm not entirely sure if there's anybody from like Sting versus Randy Orton. That it could happen, but it doesn't make sense.
I'm just hoping nobody hurts himself just when they lock up.
Sting versus Brock. Like it could happen, but it doesn't make sense. Sting versus Booker T. It could happen, but that would actually make more sense than Brock or Orton. But
what about Seth Rollins? I'll just throw that because he didn't get a chance to have the match he should have had. Sting got hurt in that match, and it wasn't anything Seth did wrong. It was just an inopportune time when he just got hurt.
It just happened. Same way with Balor.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean that if they're because of the history, it could be that thing, but that's also part of it. You're trying to shoehorn this 40-year career into one botched moment 5 or 6, 7 years ago. I think and that's unfortunate because if you think of WWE, it's like they should do it because they have the production, they have the video library. I would want them to produce the show, but I think the match should be, someone else.
Yep.
So, interesting thought. We'll definitely come back to that discussion later on down the road, especially if any major news happens, with Sting himself announcing his concrete plans for the future. But let's do this. Let's take a break. I'll be back with the Indie Spotlight. It's a big weekend happening in Toronto next week, and it's not about Forbidden Door. So I'll be back with that. This is Thursday in the Big Old Belt Wrestling Podcast. Back in a minute.
Are you a fan of all things media? Are you a fan of professional wrestling and sports? Then you need to check out Big Old Belt Media. We're the ultimate destination for all things entertainment and media, with the latest news, interviews, and analysis from the world of the aforementioned entertainment realm. Our team of dedicated journalists and analysts will bring you exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. And we're not just an online destination. We attend live events, conventions, bringing you behind-the-scenes access and exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. Plus, you can show your support for our brand by subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/BigGoldBelt. Join the Big Gold Belt Media community today and stay ahead of the game. Follow all our social media platforms at Big Gold Belt for the latest updates and exclusive content. Whether you're a diehard wrestling, sports, nerd culture fan, or just a casual like some people, Big Gold Belt Media has everything you're going to need to stay informed and entertained. So what are you waiting for? Check us out today at biggoldbelt.com. That's biggoldbelt.com.
Now, Krabby, before you go, I want to put this comment up there. You mentioned a commercial when you was there about AEW Fight Forever. We got a fan, Daniel Garcia, just put up, AEW Fight Forever is coming. Was it any buzz from any in-ring or in-arena trailers, comments, suggestions, advertisements that went towards Fight Forever?
Nothing that we haven't seen before, and nothing they didn't replay 7 or 8 times.
Got it.
So it's the same release date announcement that Kenny Omega did. It was the same commercials that they've been doing since the IGN reveal that they did a couple weeks ago, THQ Fest or whatever it was. Nothing that we haven't seen before. Certainly nothing new. So just a lot of fluff in that first half an hour of nothing happening, basically. But we will definitely talk about Fight Forever in depth closer to the 28th. That's when your first day early access period is, if you have pre-ordered the game in any version, actually. And we're also waiting for word on Steam. I'm not sure if it's actually available to pre-order on Steam yet. So when Fight Forever comes down the line, that comes out the 29th officially, the 28th if you pre-ordered and want to get it a day early. But we got actually this time next week. This time in 2 weeks, actually.
Cool.
We will be talking all about Fight Forever because I'm very interested in the Elite Edition. Is it worth the $80? That's the $80 question that we're going to
talk about compared to No Mercy. And No Mercy, think about in the classic days of wrestling video games, you get excited a little bit, but you got to wait to see how it comes out.
We got to wait and see. So we'll do that in 2 weeks. But right now, I want to move on to the Indie Spotlight because it is a big weekend, June 25th. That's next Sunday in Toronto. Not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday after in Toronto, Ontario. You have Defy Wrestling, which is based out in Seattle, and you have Progress Wrestling, which is based in England. They're putting on together a joint show, and that is Defy and Progress at 3 p.m. That's at the Rec Room in downtown Toronto, Ontario. That's number 55 Breber Boulevard in Toronto. If you've ever been there, it's right across the street from Rogers Center and the CN Tower. And if you're going to Forbidden Door afterwards, walk down the street 5 minutes. You can't miss it. You can actually see Scotiabank Arena from the park where the Rec Room is. It's right. It couldn't be closer. Couldn't be in a more perfect location to go between two shows. So that show, Defy and Progress, is at 3 o'clock. Before that, you have Smash Wrestling and Femme Fatales Wrestling, which is based in Ottawa. Smash is based in Toronto. That's at 11:30 a.m. That's called Girls Next Door. The big match for that is Mercedes Martinez versus Masha Slamovich. Camille, NWA Women's Champion, was supposed to be on the show versus Vanessa Craven. I think that's not going to happen. But so check the card, to make sure they get the final updated card. But a lot of interesting things happening there in Toronto, 11:30 a.m., June 25th. That is the day of Forbidden Door at the Rec Room. You have Girls Next Door at 11:30. You have Defy Progress at 3 p.m. And then, of course, Forbidden Door is after that at 8 o'clock. And that's going to go on until 4 in the morning because Tony Khan loves himself a long pay-per-view. You can get the combo packages for both shows so that you can get 2 tickets for one. You can get 1 ticket for either one or whatever you want to do. But if you're down in Toronto, it's super easy to get to. You can walk from Union Station, take the streetcar, walk from the airport at Bishop in downtown Toronto. That's at the Rec Room. You can get your tickets at smash-wrestling.com. You can follow them on Twitter. Same thing, Smash Wrestling. And that's the Indie Spotlight for this week. Now, moving on quickly. We talked about Sting. We talked about where he fits into AEW. We talked about AEW itself. And now I want to move into, because we talked about Sting being in a spot where we know where he's on his way out. We want to talk about a guy who's arguably coming back in, and that's Carlito Caribbean Cool. Now, Carlito, the rumor is, and again, rumors, grain of salt, but he's given out word to his promoters that he is dropping out of indie events, stating that he is actually returning to WWE. Not sure when that return is going to be. It could be imminent. It could be later than sooner. But the idea isn't necessarily about Carlito. It's more to the point of he's a guy that's been in and out of WWE for a while, and now he's on the way back in. And we've seen this will happen with guys for various reasons who have left and then come back and then left and then come back. Is there anyone that you would like to see that has been away for a while come back and have a mainstream run, to be a little bit more inclusive of AEW and Impact? But is there anybody that you want to see on your TV again?
So I'm going to go partial for one answer, but I'll go realistic for one. And I really would love to see if Mr. Kennedy got a chance to come back on mainstream live WWE, because the one feud I would like him to see is Mr. Kennedy against L.A. Knight. Yeah, I would love to see that, just to see how their dynamics in the ring and their conversations could go with their promos back and forth each other. I think that would be really well. I'm growing on LA Knight because he's reminding me a lot of what Mr. Kennedy could be, barring he finishes what he needs to do. That means get Money in the Bank, possibly get some type of world title shot in the future, because I saw that trajectory, what Mr. Kennedy was going at the time. But in a more realistic sense, somebody that's been out for a while that I would love to see come back, it's not anybody that's been out of the wrestling business. They just been out because they were hurt. I would like to see Big E come back. If I can see Big E come back in some form of fashion, granted he has to be cleared of his bill of health and things of that nature, I think getting him a chance to show what he can do as a top tier guy, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, maybe just somebody to go against that IC title. If he goes against Gunther, that would be something that I would like to see. But Big E, just for his health to come back, I think he would be great to see what he could do now at this age, him being away for a couple of years based off the injury.
Big E is obviously the guy that stands out because he's technically not gone, just injured.
Yep.
And and whether or not he moves into like a Titus O'Neil type of a role,
yes,
where he moves into like full-time ambassador, Big E would be a hell of a commentator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, that's clearly the move. If he decides to do not be a manager, assuming that he doesn't come back, but assume that he doesn't become a manager, Big E would absolutely chop it up and annoy the hell out of Michael Cole on commentary. So that's the obvious one.
Yeah.
I think that there are guys that are still doing it on the indies, and one guy that stands out to me is Too Cold Scorpio. He's a guy that a generation should remember. Yep. A generation doesn't know, and a generation probably forgot.
Yep.
And if you're not too familiar with the indies and you're under 35, you have no idea who I'm talking about.
Exactly.
So there it is. If you are familiar with the indies and you're under 35, you're going, who the hell is this old guy? And how is he that big doing flips? And I think that that's something, like if it's one last run, I would like to see him come out and maybe not be Flash Funk again, because that's not going to happen on TV. But I would like to see him come out and just put on a couple just good damn matches, and then take that and cement that as the last imprint for people wanting to see something on TV. Because the indies, as much as I love it and respect it, doesn't really have the gravitas as being on mainstream TV. There's just something about being on SmackDown, on Raw, on Dynamite, on Impact. That means not necessarily more, but it arguably means that you've quote unquote made it. And I would like to see him come back for one good run. I would like to see Too Cold Scorpio get the Sting run. I think that would be really just a really, really cool thing to happen, where I don't know who he takes under his ring. Too Cold Scorpio and Top Flight, I don't know if that needs to happen. But still, I think that he would be one of the guys that I would like to see just have a great run until he doesn't want to anymore. So let's move on really quickly to our last thing that I wanted to get to this week. Collision is upon us.
Yep.
It's going to happen. We're going to collab with Collision this coming Saturday, 8 o'clock on TNT. We know the card because the card was announced last night. And I'm not going to go over the entire card. But We do have, of course, the big match is Samoa Joe, Jay White, and Juice Robinson versus CM Punk and FTR. Cool. Miro's going to be there. There's a women's match, TNT match, and Buddy Matthews versus Andrade making his return.
Yep.
The first question that I have is that everybody has a match but Miro. It says that Miro will be in action. So, first question out of the gate for Collision, what do you do with Miro?
That's so hard because in my opinion, they didn't bring Miro in the right way. Granted, he had a title run, but they really didn't use him in the right way. In my opinion, you use Miro as your bona fide superstar that you bring in that is automatically shoot to the top. But if you don't bring him in that type of heat, he's never going to reach there because you're not booking him the right way. I have no clue what you do with Miro. This is hard. I don't even know who could probably match up with him, what feud you have with them. This is legit. I don't know. This might be a make or break with Miro on AEW because if they do Collision right, where he gets a good feature on Collision, which is your season 1 of this new show that's coming on.
Episode 1.
Episode 1. If you don't do what you need to do with Miro, I'm packing your bags. You better find your way back to WWE or something where somebody can use you in the right way if they can. Because this is make or break for you. I have no idea. Like, I'm really dumbfounded of what they can do with this guy.
Yeah, to echo that sentiment, I think Miro is trading in Bray Wyatt territory right now.
Oh, good call. Good call.
I mean, and it's not that we don't want to see him, and we have all of this potential based on the hype, but the bottom line is that it really hasn't panned out for one reason or another.
Nope.
Now, the word was that Miro didn't want to come back the way he came back because he was going to have this big entrance just to lose and put somebody over, which does nothing for his return.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Noted that, respect that. But now that he comes in and Miro's just going to be in action, well, if they bring out somebody more important than Miro, then that diminishes him. If they bring him out for somebody for him to squash, then it doesn't elevate him.
Nope.
So it's a very interesting concept where they're building, and I guess, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I guess I am going to have to do it. Wardlow versus Luchasaurus for the TNT Championship. There's a feud there. Mm-hmm. You have Sky Blue and Willow versus Tony Stormer and Ruby Soho.
Yep.
Well, that happened as a result of the actions on Dynamite.
Yep.
Andrade versus Buddy Matthews. Not a match that I expected, but I think that's just going to be a solid match on paper.
Yep.
And then the big 6-man tag that that I discussed, mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And then Miro. And I really, I don't know. It obviously he feels like an afterthought because we don't know who he's facing. And that's part of the problem. Which Miro will we get? Will we get like gamer dude, best friend Miro? Will we get Holy Crusader, who's literally trying to box with God Miro? I don't know what is or is going to be, and I don't know who he's going to be. He just feels out of place. He feels like a spare tire.
And if I was AEW, this is what I would do. And of course, we don't know how the structure of the card is going to be.
Nor do we know how it's going to be relevant to Dynamite.
Exactly. But I would open the show with him. Bring him out. Open the show. If you really want to do something with Miro, open the show with him. Bring him out. And if you bring somebody that's a special surprise that could start a feud, maybe it's somebody you just signed. That could be something that's great for both parties moving forward because you might be able to build a story or build to something. But you got to give Miro something if you're trying to frame him as one of your best wrestlers. If not, I'm sorry, Miro.
So then that leads to question number 2. Miro's going to be in action versus whom? Who should he be in action versus? Okay, well, I'll make it a little bit easier then.
Okay.
Should it be a big name? Should it be a current roster member, or should it be a local talent? Because we are in Forbidden Door season. Mm-hmm. That's happening, next week. Mm-hmm. They could bring in a big name from Japan, mm-hmm. and that could be a thing. And that match, whatever that match is, and they could, of course, pay it off at Forbidden Door. Miro gets into a match that never really evolves because of things, and then they pay it off at Forbidden Door. Miro versus Tetsuya Naito, for example. Mm-hmm. Cool. That would be something that makes you go, all right, we back.
Yep.
If it's Miro versus a current roster member, well, then who? Who's not busy right now where he can go, head to head with Miro and start off a potential feud down the road then? Colt?
Let me
Go
throw a
Russ.
name out there to you. And once again, and I'm throwing a wing out here because I'm not sure if anything's going on where he won't be able to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Hardy featuring Matt Hardy. Could that work?
I mean, that's kind of the thing with this is that I can't say that it won't work because Matt Hardy's a big enough name where he won't overshadow Miro.
Yep.
But he's a big enough name where he could complement him but that's also the thing too. If you bring out Matt as the face and Miro as the obvious heel, and Miro wins, then what?
Right.
Like I kind of need a springboard. If we're not going to get a dream match, then I need a springboard that's going to get him into something, and that's what I'm not sure what it is. Now he's already a heel. They have too many heel factions as it is.
Yeah.
He's not a top tier guy, so he's not going to be dealing with the Elite or Kenny or anything like that. And he shouldn't be a bottom tier guy because he's better than that. So Matt Hardy and Ethan Page and that whole thing just won't die. So who knows if he would actually come in? But I don't really know what you do. Yeah, I think you kind of tied in with Forbidden Door. You bring in a Japanese guy.
Yep.
I don't know the New Japan roster. If it were DDT, I could absolutely tell you. But maybe you bring that in, have them pay it off, or just a big baby face from Japan, whoever they got, I don't know. And then pay that, start it at the show, pay it off at the pay-per-view. I think that's the easiest answer while we're in the season now. The timing's right. Everything gets set up for it. But having him come out and facing Action Andretti in a squash match does nothing for either guy.
So I'll say this. The only name that I would throw out there, and part of this because I know him on a personal level, just knowing where he is right now in Japan, I would throw Kevin Knight out there.
Okay.
I would throw Kevin Knight out there. I know he's in his tag team run right now, but if you're trying to throw in that door a forbidden door, that could be something because Kevin Knight is up and coming. His push right now is getting relevant. I will put him in there to see what he can do in a singles run against Miro. You expose him, that's a fresh face. You can see what he does and how that balances in the ring. And those that follow New Japan or even some of the indies may know who he is. But if you see him go against Miro, he could work with Miro. He could.
Yeah, you know what? And this is just admittedly how ignorant I am of New Japan. I totally forgot that Strong has a roster. And they could absolutely bring over guys from that show.
Yep.
And have whoever the big baby face is on Strong, bring him in there, have him wrestle with the Miro for at least the pay-per-view, and then they can go their separate ways.
Absolutely.
But now that we have implanted that seed, well, they've already had one match. It ended how it ended. Maybe Miro wins in a heel way, maybe he loses in a heel way. But then, of course, Forbidden Door 3, Less Forbidden, is going to have to come around next year, and they're going to have to pay that off sometime. We know Wrestle Kingdom is going to come around in January, so they're going to pay that off at some time. So going forward, there's a little bit more meat on. You can leave a lot more meat on the bone and pay it off with Miro in Japan, or going on a New Japan Strong type of a run, or something like that. I want to see Miro in action. I want to see him in a meaningful match.
Same.
As much as I love the guy, I don't want to see Miro squash Nick Comoroto.
No. And give him something to build for. Like, for example, and we kind of reference it because right now he is a heel. If you're going to make him a heel, make him that top heel. Now, I know MJF is your top heel of the company right now. I get that. But build him up as the heel. I mean, look what WWE is doing with Gunther right now. And Gunther is just itching to be that top guy. And he's doing perfectly fine, knowing that he's on that next tier from IC champion to future champion. He's not ready for Money in the Bank yet. Keep him as an IC title, legitimize him on that. But when he's ready to go to that WWE World title, whatever title you want to put him, he'll be ready and he's going to carry that thing. So do the same thing with Miro. Miro could be your Gunther of AEW.
Yeah, I think so. It would be that would be great. And unfortunately, because Gunther is U.S. champion or Intercontinental?
Intercontinental.
Right. So Gunther is that secondary champion out of the other 2 or 3 top tier belts they have, but that's a different WWE problem. But basically, Miro should be TNT champion.
Yeah,
That's the equivalent level.
exactly.
Unfortunately, the TNT champion is busy battling the dinosaur and his evil henchman.
It
But with
is
that
what it
said,
is.
though, I think it would be. I think Miro versus a face Wardlow is the move to make, because Wardlow needs something.
Mhm.
And though Christian is good, he is infinitely better than the people that he represents.
Yep.
Jungle Boy has moved on from that. He's teamed up with Hook, and they're going to do a thing. Jungle Boy has his match for Forbidden Door. Good for him.
Yep.
Luchasaurus is paired with Christian, and they're going to be doing a thing with Wardlow because of reasons. Okay, cool. I think Wardlow versus Miro would be the move going forward after he's done with the dinosaur. But that's then, and what do we do now? So I don't know who you bring over from anywhere, but I also do think that there has to be somebody, and obviously there is somebody. I just don't know New Japan well enough to say who that person would be.
Yep.
But there's got to be somebody over there that can elevate Miro in a way, and that would be mutual beneficial for both parties, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese may not remember him or know who he is, and you bring somebody over, they have a hell of a match. Obviously, we want to see Miro, go to work again, and we get him started in a direction that has him have a match. So, I really, that's the one big surprise for me for the card. And it's Saturday at 8. Now this, and of course, this is the big question, the biggest question. Knowing what the card is, will you be home Saturday at 8:00 to watch it?
Well,
actually, let me rephrase that. Do you watch it live? Do you DVR it, or do you just skip it and read the reports?
So my attempt is to be there to watch it live. But if I can't watch it live, I'll catch it because it'll probably come on repeat if I get home like 10 o'clock again on TNT. Because with no other sporting event going on right now outside of baseball, of course, you can look forward to that on a Saturday because there's no pay-per-view going on right now, and it's right on your own cable TV or stream, whatever platform you have.
Right.
You can watch that. And it's going to be easily accessible, especially if it's on TNT, because the replays are like crazy on TNT. I am actually going to AwesomeCon on Saturday, so I have the chance to get home to watch it, which I plan to watch it on time. But is it something that I need to set the DVR that I can't miss? I don't think so.
Right. So I think the card itself seems like a safe card. They're not. This card does not overshadow Forbidden Door. This card does not overshadow Dynamite in Chicago, even though this thing will be in Chicago as well, the United Center.
Yeah.
I think that, of course, it's Chicago. Of course, CM Punk is in the biggest match, the main event, in a 6-man tag, which makes sense. Again, we talked about Sting. Yep. CM Punk is coming back from major injury. He needs to be protected as well, as you would anyone who's coming back from injury. Cool. But the long and short of it is that this looks intriguing on paper. I think the Miro aspect of it is the most intriguing for me because that's the thing that they're either really holding close to the chest or they just don't know what they're doing with it.
And I'll take the latter.
That's what it feels like. So for me, will I be home live Saturday at 8:00 to watch it? No. I can't imagine that I would. I'll probably be at the Nationals game, but the bottom line is that it does pique my interest. I'll probably hop on Discord and see what the guys are talking about, and if there's something that's really super awesome, then I will get on the app and run it back.
Right.
But otherwise, the matches themselves individually, other than the mystery of Miro, isn't something that I feel that I need to see. And of course, these are either storylines that are going to be ongoing, like the TNT Championship and the women's tag match, or these are going to be matches that are just one-offs that don't really appeal to me on paper. Andrade versus Buddy Matthews, or you just have the grandeur that is CM Punk coming back. That's not something that particularly moves me. And of course, the New Japan element, I'm not particularly interested anyway. So it could be a fantastic show. It's not enough to make me change my plans on Saturday night. And that's what's going to be very interesting to see going forward. How many people are going to be watching it live versus DVR?
Yep.
because it is the summer. People are traveling.
Yep.
There are things going on. Maybe not other sports per se, because I don't think the USFL is going to kick the show in the ass. But it's Saturday night. 4th of July is a weekend. Is the week after Forbidden Door.
Yep.
So I'm watching somebody's fireworks that weekend, even though the 4th is on a Tuesday.
Yep.
So it is a very interesting placement Saturday at 8:00. But then again, this is what we wanted from Rampage. Rampage still comes on at 10:00 tomorrow.
Yep.
I will say, because I did see Rampage live, Takeshita versus Bandito, fantastic match. If one were to stay up late for one match, it would be for that one. Otherwise, DVR it, but it's definitely worth a good watch. But for Collision, I think that's pretty much it. It is interesting enough to keep track of. I personally don't think that it's going to move me from other. I'm not going to move plans to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see how long it stays in that Saturday at 8:00 spot. If Khan just decides to just attrition it out and just goes, nope, whatever it does, it does. We're just going to move. We're going to move with it because it's Saturday at 8:00. And again, remember, he used to have pay-per-views at that time, but he didn't do it for UFC.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference between then and now? I mean, UFC still runs Saturdays, and their preliminaries are it starts at 7 or 8:00 and runs until 10 before the main event starts at 10:30, 11. So how will the show be any different than that?
So let me ask you this: rank AEW's premiere shows. You got Dynamite, which we were all there on that opening night.
Yes.
Then you got Rampage, which opened very recently, within the last couple of years or so.
Yeah.
And then you have Collision.
Right.
And think about, before each show aired, rank them 1, 2, 3 as your excitement. Not saying that you had to be there, had to watch it on TV. If you rank them 1, 2, 3, what would it be?
Well, so I'm biased because, fortunately, miracle of miracles, Dynamite premiered first ever episode 3 blocks from my job.
Yes.
So it wasn't that I needed to be there or needed to watch it, because if it wasn't accessible, maybe I watch it, maybe I don't. Because you got to remember that the only thing we saw from Dynamite beforehand was All In.
Yep.
And then the hype and then the rumors and the whatever. And like, okay, well, it's a show. I'll watch a show because it's a show. Cool.
Yep.
Oh, no, it's here. Oh, hell yeah, I'm going.
Yep.
Because why wouldn't I want to be the doorstep of history?
No question.
Rampage happened, and that was still kind of like, Friday at 10:00. This is a supplementary show to Dynamite. This is going to show the matches that we just couldn't fit into 2 hours.
Yep.
And then it suddenly didn't feel that way. And then it suddenly doesn't feel that way.
Yep.
And now Rampage has moved from, no, this is just SmackDown, 1 hour SmackDown. No, this is Sunday Night Heat.
Yep.
And then now we have Collision, which arguably has already supplanted Rampage as the secondary show, because A, it's 2 hours, and B, it's at a more attractive time slot, even though that time slot is the busiest day of the week for people doing leisure things. You can't win them all.
Yep.
But it is going to be interesting to see, continuity-wise, where this fits into the spectrum. Because will this be the actual SmackDown that they want to have and start storylines on this show and pay them off on this show, where you need to watch the show exclusively to follow up with that content? Or will it just be kind of a mishmash and, split amongst Dynamite and the show? And then when that happens, obviously, what happens to Rampage? Do they even need to tape it after Dynamite anymore? Because it really will be Sunday Night Heat.
It's like Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And we talk about Friday at 10:00 and Saturday at 8:00.
Yeah. So that's kind of the question. They could keep Rampage on at the exact same time, but because of its spot in the rotation, they could actually take Rampage before Dynamite, just put on 3 or 4 filler matches that really don't mean anything. It will air Friday, and then do the event between 7 or 6:30 and 10, or whenever Dynamite gets off the air, versus 7 to midnight, because you need to cram in so much. And then, of course, you could tape Ring of Honor before Collision or after Collision, depending on where you are in the country. I think it's interesting to see how Collision fits into its taping schedule and how it fits into the continuity of what the stories that they're trying to tell. I hope that it goes well. And also, more importantly than that, it's more of an opportunity to see a live product,
Absolutely.
which I'm always for. This show is going to be in Chicago. That is one more show, even though it's in Chicago again, it's one more show that people have an opportunity to see these people that they would not have seen before. So, yes, Chicago.
Absolutely.
And they're coming to Hamilton, and they're going to Calgary, and they're going to Toronto. They're going to Newark. I might go to the Newark show.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all shows that if they didn't exist, I wouldn't be there for, because obviously they wouldn't exist. So more is still more, but more isn't necessarily better.
Absolutely.
So we just got to kind of wait and see what this is. So I think for the first show, I'd definitely be intrigued and keeping an eye on things. But I really hope that it turns out to be SmackDown and not AEW Worldwide.
And let me ask this too, because I know rumors happen. We haven't touched on this. Is this time for AEW to do a brand split?
Well, let's table that for a different, more in-depth discussion.
To be continued.
Yeah, because I need to see what Collision is first.
Yep, good point.
And that's also more importantly than that. We haven't even talked about the elephant in the room wearing a jacket that says Ring of Honor on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there were to be a brand split, it should be with Ring of Honor. But are you doing a disservice to your people if you put them behind the paywall of Honor?
Exactly.
So what does that contract look like? Will they be paid the same? Will they be paid more or less?
Yep.
Because Ring of Honor is whatever it is. Now that we have Collision, let's assume that we have Collision and Ring of Honor taped on the same day in the same setting. Are we more likely to see those people intermingling on the show and not on Dynamite?
Yep.
If you split it, how many ways do you split it? Will it be the Ring of Honor Collision contingency and the Rampage Dynamite contingent? Will there, so that's why I want to get into this a little bit later, because there's a lot of X factors that Collision will hopefully answer for us this coming Saturday at 8:00. So
absolutely.
Let's get out of here, because my eyes are starting to bleed now, because I'm still working on 4 hours of sleep from I didn't get home till 12:30.
Jeez, man, that's almost like a WrestleMania show from
it is
6 to 12:30 by the time.
For
and I'm not talking about
Dynamite.
you left your house. I'm talking about this time you got to the venue to when you got home. That's 6.5 hours.
I left my place at 5:45. I got on the bus downtown, and I got there at about 6:15.
Yeah.
Grabbed some food, 6:30, and then the night went the way it went. It was 11:50.
Jeez.
Because 2 Chainz was there with me, and he said, "All right, I'm going to watch the Sky Blue match, and then it's the Sky Blue versus Tony Storm, and then I'm going to be out." And he was, and that was about 10:15 or so.
Yep.
And that happened. Actually, he left before Dynamite ended, because he left in the main event, and I don't blame him. And that happened. That was about 9:45, and then from 9:45, the show went on another 2 hours after that. And that is insane. Yeah. So I'm going to get some beauty rest. Well
deserved.
Yeah, thank you. Well, come on, man. I'm not that bad. But you slipped that in there. But I'm going to get some much needed rest. Marcellus, we'll do this again next week, sir. But I want to remind everybody, next Thursday, 8:00, the podcast drops Friday morning-ish. Check your feeds, check your podcasting services. Absolutely. Wherever you get the podcast in the world, we'll be there. Ready, waiting for you. BigGoldBelt.com is the website, the only website in the world that you need to know. And that has all of the news, the notes, the links to the podcast, links to other content. I'm on the website right now. I'm just going to give you the last 3 things that were posted. If you haven't seen Secret Invasion on Disney Plus, 2 Chainz got you. He got the review down right now. Nimona, which is a Netflix movie that comes out, I want to say next week. I've heard about it, heard some good things. Heard some interesting things. I don't have Netflix, so this is a review that I'm actually going to be looking into, because I might need to hop on somebody's account for that. And then 2 Chainz reviewed Extraction 2, and I heard the first one was fantastic.
Oh, it was outstanding.
I heard the first one was fantastic, and we were talking about that a little bit last night at the show, and he says the second one, woo. I mean, if you thought the first one was good, then you definitely hold on to your Netflix, because the second one is outstanding. So those are the last 3 reviews on BigGoldBelt.com. There's a ton more stuff there. Awesome Con is this weekend. So there'll be all the things for that. And then, of course, all the wrestling content on the wrestling side that you'll need to know. BigGoldBelt.com literally has everything that you need to know in media. So for 2 James, Will, Damian, and Absentia, my name is Jamal. He's Marcellus, and this is the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. And until next week, have a good one.